everybody. How's it going? We're going to talk about some horror movies on this episode because I've been watching a lot of them, and I like to get reviews of horror movies because I've got very specific tastes. And when you have specific tastes, you don't really want to go out and just try every single one. You know, you want to know what's good. You want to know what kind of movies you would like, and then try to, focus on those. But for about a week, my wife and I have just watched a horror movie every night. Just whatever's on HBO Max or Netflix, just turn it on, try it, maybe skip out in 15 minutes if we don't like it, go to the next one. So I'm just going to go through. First of all, I want to tell you what I think of as a great horror movie. And it's not jump scares. I hate jump scares not only because they get me, and I think they send my heart rate through the roof in a way that normal people don't, but I just, they're also cheap, from a philosophical standpoint on horror. They are cheap, and they are not as scary as actually scary. They're not scary by definition. That's what I should say. They're not scary. They are tricking you into being scared. They are building the music up and building tension so you know something's coming, and then you're on the edge of your seat waiting for this thing to pop out, and then it finally does, and it could be anything. It could be a small, cute little bunny that would pop out at that point, and you would be scared by it because it just popped out of nowhere, So it's not actually scary. So my idea, I think the perfect horror movie is Hereditary. Hereditary has maybe one or two moments you could argue are jump scares, but they're not really. I mean, nothing's popping out, just something shocking happens, and they're not. It's not the typical movie, It's very tense, very cerebral, very it's conceptual, It's the idea of what's going on behind the scenes and kind of what you realize is happening later that is the most terrifying part of it. I remember the night I saw Hereditary. It was wild. Devin Cox-Wara and Mario DeBella and Chris Jameson and I, Daryl, my friend Daryl, few people. A couple of you are Patreon supporters if you're wondering why I'm listing all these people. I know the average person listening is like, I don't know any of these people. Who are you talking about? Well, Devin and Chris are Patreon supporters, and they were there that night, and it changed my life, man. I was not okay for a day or two. Like, I remember I was leaving. I'm not going to spoil anything in Hereditary, but if you've seen it, you know that it involves leaving the house in the morning. A character leaves the house in the morning and sees something horrific outside. And I was thinking about that the next morning when I left for work. And just as I shut the door and lock it behind me, a pigeon flies out of nowhere right past my head. And I was so freaked out. It was unlike anything that I've ever been through. So Chris Jameson told me that I remember his wife was out of town that night, and he told me that he went to a bar that we all used to go to called the Blind Pig. He told me that he had to go there, and he closed that place down because he was too afraid to go back to his apartment alone, which I just thought was like, yep, that's how I felt. That's exactly how I felt. So we were on the same page there. So that's my idea of a perfect horror movie. If you've seen Hereditary, then now you know exactly what my tastes are. So I'm going to start out with, I think I'm going to talk about 6 movies that we've watched recently. Just give you kind of a brief synopsis, like not even probably a synopsis proper, but just sort of what I remember of it. And I'm not going to spoil anything major. And then I'll just sort of tell you what I liked, what I didn't, and whether I think you should watch it. I'm going to start with Vivarium, which starred Jesse Eisenberg and some chick that I cannot remember the name of. But basically, they go to look at an open house, and they go out into this kind of maze of the suburbs, and the guy showing them the house leaves them there, and then they're stuck there, and no matter how far away they drive, walk, whatever, they're just trapped in this suburban maze, and they can never escape. And now the parallels are pretty obvious. They're obviously talking about, young couples that move to the suburbs and then just get stuck in this rut of living out in the middle of, the suburbs and never getting out, never escaping, never doing anything. I don't fully agree with the sentiment of it, but I understand like kind of the philosophy of life that it's coming from. And I will say, I finished it just because I wanted to see what was happening. I wouldn't. If you want to see like a really trippy movie, then check it out, but not in terms of horror. It's more of a sci-fi almost. In terms of horror, I would not rate it very high, and the ending I found to be pretty subpar. So I would say if you want to see a trippy movie, check it out, but not if you're looking for a horror movie. And that leads me directly to the next one, which is Green Room, which I felt very similarly about. I remember a few years ago, this was recommended to me by several people based on the fact that I loved Hereditary so much. And it was not that. There's no supernatural element to this at all. It's really more of a thriller. Basically this really struggling punk band goes and plays at this venue out in the middle of nowhere to these like white supremacists, and so they're already kind of at odds with them because they're anti-Nazi. They do a cover of Nazi Punk's "Fuck Off" by the Dead Kennedys, which I thought was great. So they're already kind of at odds, and then they witness something they should not have, and they end up being taken prisoner and barricading themselves away from these white supremacists and trying to escape. That's basically the plot. So again, more of a suspense thriller kind of thing. No supernatural, no haunting, no nothing. Good movie in terms of the what's his name? Captain Picard, I think. I've never really seen Star Trek. The bald guy. He does the voice of Avery Bullock on American Dad, and I cannot remember Patrick Stewart. I can remember all of his characters' names before his name. Patrick Stewart is in it, which he's very out of place in that movie, but it's fine. Alia Shawket's in it too if you're an Arrested Development fan. It's a very good movie. It's just I would not market it as a horror movie because it was disappointing in that regard. So in terms of horror, also going to rank this one pretty low along with Vivarium. But if you're into like a good suspense movie, then that's pretty good. Next up, I'm going to talk about The Night House. The Night House, I think you know what? I'm accidentally going in order of how much I liked them, so I'm just going to keep doing that. The Night House was good. Good horror movie, supernatural, ghost kind of thriller. This woman's husband dies, and she's living in the house that he built alone after he died, and she is being haunted. That's basically, you know what? I'll tell you, I know this from the trailer, so I don't think this is a huge spoiler. She finds out that he was stalking a bunch of women who looked exactly like her. Like, not identical twins, but like pretty similar looking girls. And that sort of sends her down like investigating a mystery that kind of ends very satisfying conclusion to me. The ending was a little kind of ends in the middle of stuff. It doesn't really resolve fully, but I think the movie tells you everything you need to know to kind of understand what was going on. So it's not like they lived happily ever after kind of ending, or like really closing the circle. It does sort of leave the loop open, but very satisfying considering what they reveal in the course of the movie to me. And although I think there were some jump scares, which I was not, crazy about, there's a lot of like building up of tension and then never having a jump scare, kind of like in The Witch, which like I really like a lot because it gives you that suspense without like the cheap jump scare. So I'll recommend The Night House. In terms of horror, I'll rank it pretty high. And in terms of like satisfying story and good acting and everything, yeah, I mean, there's really nothing bad I can say about it. You kind of need to pay attention to understand the explanation of what's going on. That's what I would say. So if you're able to focus on a movie, then check that out. 3 more here. Let's talk about Barbarian. I don't know if Barbarian is new or not. I just recently heard a bunch of people talking about it after I watched it on a podcast. So it might be kind of new and I didn't realize, but I don't even remember all the stars. Justin Long, I think is his name. He was on New Girl, a couple of those like teen movies in the early 2000s. Anyways, he's not the main character, but he's in it. And you know who else is in it is Pennywise, Bill Skarsgård. He's in it. Very interesting flick. Wherever you think it's going, it's not going there. Just like keep in mind that every expectation you have throughout the whole experience is going to be subverted in one way or the other. And again, they explain things, but not like they don't break out the chalkboard and like really sketch everything out and tell you exactly what's going on, but they definitely give you everything you need to know to understand it. So I really like that. In terms of horror, I don't think the ending is very satisfying as far as like what turns out to be going on, but it is pretty scary, pretty spooky. So it's a very fun ride. The ending is a little drawn out, so maybe the last like 10 minutes is a little whatever, but really fun ride the whole time up until then. So I would say I rate it pretty highly. I might say The Night House is better actually, but I liked Barbarian a lot. So next up is Nope. And now Nope is obviously Jordan Peele's newest movie. And obviously it got a lot of attention because Jordan Peele is very popular and universally beloved. And here's what I'm going to say. Every single one of his movies is better than the last. That's what I would say. Nope is his, I'm only aware of 3 of his movies, so if he's done more, forgive me because I'm not aware of them, but it was Get Out, and then Us, and then Nope. And I'm going to say that, like, compared to Nope, Get Out is a terrible movie. like Us was a lot better than Get Out, and Nope is a lot better than Us. He's just getting better. I don't know if he writes and directs. I think he does. He both writes and directs his movies, and it shows that there's a singular vision over it all, and man, he's just really good. So yeah, I appreciate his writing and his movies a lot. Basically they run a horse, like they raise horses and use them in movies. So it's like, I guess a ranch I guess it was a ranch for horses, but they're specifically for movies. So they're like a drive from Hollywood, but they're out in the desert, like, secluded, and basically it's an alien invasion. And so there's a couple, it's not very scary. So like a coworker was telling me that her kids wanted to see it, and I was like, it's a horror movie, but your kids can probably handle it. Like, it's not that, scary. It's got comic relief and things in it, but there are a couple of really good spooky moments, and the ending is pretty satisfying as well. I wouldn't say it resolves exactly as you think it's going to or want it to, but I think it has a pretty conclusive ending. The reason I keep focusing on that is because I'm finding a lot of movies today love to end in the middle of everything with no explanation, as if that's like high art. Like, I think First Reformed is probably like the greatest example of that. Probably the shittiest movie I've ever seen in my life. It was fine, like it was enjoyable, but it meant nothing, and it amounted to nothing, and it just kind of ended like there was no real story to it, So I'm not a huge fan of those kinds of movies. So for me, a satisfying ending is going to be huge in determining whether a movie was good. So that's why I keep bringing up like whether it has a satisfying ending. Yeah, good movie. Can't say much more without spoiling stuff, but Glenn from Walking Dead's in it, and he has a really good character, and I like it a lot. And last up is Smile, which I think is probably the greatest horror movie that I've seen since Hereditary. And if you know me, you know that means a lot, because Hereditary is one of my favorite movies of all time. Smile, basically, this woman is a therapist, and a patient kills themselves in front of her, and then she becomes haunted by this thing that takes the form of someone you know and has this like very creepy smile. I can't say anything more without spoiling it. Even that's probably more than the trailer will tell you, but I don't think like that's not going to ruin anything for you. Like, you learn all of that within probably the first 10 minutes of the movie. And there's a lot more I haven't told you. And I will say, ending wise, like, pretty satisfying ending. It's very clear what's going on. There's a clear explanation to the plot, and great acting, great all that. I mean, and a couple of twists that just, yeah, this was another one where it didn't freak me out as bad as Hereditary, but for a couple hours after I watched it, I did that thing where like you go into a new room very cautiously, just in case, like, there's nothing in there, but what if there was, that kind of thing. So yeah, I would give that. I mean, if I'm not going to give Smile a 10, I don't know what I would give a 10. I would give Hereditary a 10. I'd give The Departed a 10. So maybe I'll give Smile a 9. But in terms of horror, like, you can't do much better than this movie. So I'm going to say that's my ultimate pick. So yeah, I just figured since I've spent so much time on horror movies, I might as well, bring that to you, give you guys some vital info if you're looking for recommendations or what you should check out. I would probably say check out The Night House, Barbarian, Nope, and Smile, and Green Room and Vivarium can screw off as far as I'm concerned. But none of them were bad movies. Just in terms of like a good horror movie, those are the 4 that you're looking for. So, all right, hopefully I'll keep watching and have more to report to you soon. All right, thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you next week.